coming up in this video, lifting component and the real loads on the machine, and through that opening was the person's face indeed gazing at me. I think when he understood that I seen him, he moved away concealed. I joined an exercise center interestingly 3 months prior. Now, at any point expect something terrifying to happen. However, last week I had the most awful experience of my life. I wear one of those remote earphones when I go to the exercise center because the wired ones continuously disrupt everything and they're simply irritating. And then I'll leave my telephone on an exercise machine when I stroll to the drinking fountain, and when the telephone gets excessively far from the earphones, the AirPods begin getting staticky. Previously separating, I just knew because it multiple times before when I left excessively far from my telephone in the rec center. Well, one late night last week I was one of the last individuals still in the rec center. I was on one of the situated leg machines. I started my arrangement of 20 while I was pushing towards my last reps. The music in my earphones began getting staticky. That is the way my headset said separated from telephone. I halted my set and came over to the telephone compartment on top of the machine. I loaded up with stress when I was unable to feel my telephone. It wasn't there. I checked out the exercise center frantically, figuring somebody could have taken it. I just saw 2 others in the entirety exercise center. However, barring the folks sitting at the front work area, one person was truly fat, also damp with sweat, and the other person was sitting on one of the machines peering down on his telephone. Which one might have taken my telephone? If both of them, I needed to move toward the person sitting on his telephone, as much as I would have rather not. He had earbuds in, so when I drew nearer him, he checked out at me with a confounded look all over, as though he didn't need me to be conversing with him. He required one earbud out and took a gander at me, and I solidly inquired, "Did you take my telephone?" He checks me out peacefully. Several seconds then expressed no. There was a clear disposition. I inquired as to whether he saw any other individual strolling by as of late, and he recently shook his head. No great explanation, I said. Much obliged, and left when I where it counts. Needed to advise him to stop being an abnormal person. I went to the front work area and asked the laborer to take a look at the camcorders and see unequivocally who took my telephone. As the person working toward the front clicked around on his PC, the impolite fellow whom I addressed strolled past me and out the leave. The laborer then turned the PC screen with the goal that I can see it, and clicked play on a video that showed the fellow who left 15 seconds before taking my telephone. I expressed gratitude toward the representative and raced to get the person who recently left. Yet by the time I got outside, the person was no place to be found. The alarming thing that soaked in immediately was the way that I as of late debilitated my password impedes my telephone, meaning he had admittance to all of my applications, my texts as a whole, pictures, messages, each of my information. Fundamentally, I returned inside, and that is the worker to follow that man's participation information. Yet when he checked the cameras, the fellow didn't check in. Basically strolled past the counter inconspicuous. So there were no records of this person even being an individual from the rec center. The recording showed that he dubiously strolled around between machines, checking out a part like an anxious individual. I asked the representative to report that to the police. He said he'd show it to his chief tomorrow. The following day, I called my dearest companion Tim so I could see him while I wouldn't be noting text for some time, and to likewise check whether he could tell all my other companions what happens. He began cracking out on the telephone, beseeching me to tell him I was joking about losing my telephone. He let me know if somebody had been sending him texts and came to his home. I didn't see, so he said he'd be over to show me 10 minutes. After the fact, Tim got to my house and showed me a meaningful discussion among him and somebody utilizing my telephone, claiming to be me. It began with the individual on my telephone saying, "Hello, can I remain at your place this evening?" I got in a colossal battle with my folks. Tim said, "No doubt, let me in when you come over." Then the person who was utilizing my telephone said, "Might you at any point leave your secondary passage open? I will be over really late and I don't want to wake you." The discussion continued a short time longer before Tim consented to simply leave his back to her open. Tim returned to rest sure, possibly by mistake, that it was me who might come through that indirect access. When we wrapped up perusing the discussion, Tim gazed upward at me and said the cameras we raced to his home together and watched the film caught on the cameras all through his home. I was upset, however, likewise not shocked to see that man from the exercise center who took my telephone strolling in through the indirect access to Tim's home. He rummages the spot, getting costly family protest and tossing them in his pockets. He moves from the lair to the kitchen, in the long run to the higher up. I saw the dread in Tim's face when he watched the man on the camera on the higher up foyer opens his room entryway, stepped in for around 20 seconds and returned out, leaving the entryway open. The man was in the house for around 10 minutes before slipping back out. Then the secondary passage. It appeared as though he took a ton of resources. Tim and I sent the video to the police, and when I went back at the exercise center, the director told me she'd send their recording too. After 90 days, nothing but silence from the police, so whoever took my telephone and slipped into Tim's home pulled off it without any consequence. Hey guys, before you keep watching the video, I see a lot of you are not subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoyed the content and you want to help us to grow, please consider subscribing to achieve our goal of 100 subscribers. Thank you. I right now go to a 24-hour rec center in the towns, generally on the calmer side, the vast majority of the day. Yet during the evening hours, it truly turns into an apparition town. I try not to very comprehend how they could bear to remain open day in and day out. I needed to work late one night to cover for somebody else's shift, so I got off work at 11 p.m. I anticipated heading directly over to the rec center to get a fast midnight exercise. When I arrived, no other person was there. I was the only one working out, well, just for around 10 minutes thus. I, at long last, spotted another person working out. It caused me to feel somewhat less odd for being there so late. The person was wearing a beanie and a hoodie. I was perspiring, simply taking a gander at him to be straightforward. I mean, it was cold out, however it wasn't cold in the exercise center. I scarcely had sufficient opportunity to dissect his odd attire choice. Previously, he began gazing me down. I thought back, however long I felt agreeable previously, choosing to turn away. I felt like he appeared to be testing my strength. Since I felt his gaze through my fringe vision, I continued to shoot glances back at him to in any case find him gazing at me. I made an honest effort to overlook it, and happened with my exercise. I just couldn't take the gazing any longer, however. So I went to an alternate segment of the rec center where there was positive no around. I was at long last ready to exercise in harmony. I was doing bicep twists by the freeloads while confronting the mirror. That is the point at which I saw that person in the beanie was taking cover behind one of the chest press machines. There was a slight opening between the lifting component and the real loads on the machine, and through that opening was the person's face, indeed gazing at me. I think when he understood that I seen him, he moved away, concealed behind the machine. I'm way excessively meek individual to go methodology anyone like that, so rather than facing him, I put the loads down and left the room. I strolled directly to the front work area and asked the young lady attempting to tell the man to, by the same token, quit gazing at me like that or leave the exercise center. She peered down the path of exercise machines and saw no one. I requested that she come follow me. She was exceptionally hesitant to do so. However, she wound up accompanying me to the private alcove. We checked out the room, however he wasn't. And there, truth be told, it seemed like he wasn't even in the rec center any longer. I apologized and advised all her and I out for the man in the beanie. She strolls back to her work area, and I continued to work out for one more 10 to 15 minutes. I said farewell to the young lady as I left the rec center and went to my vehicle as they put the key in the entryway lock. I heard hyper strides hitting the substantial. I was befuddled right away. It seemed like someone running in the heading. I turned 180 degrees. Somebody was running towards me from the dim. I stood like a creature frozen in headlights. Briefly, as I gazed in shock when the individual arose into the circle of light onto the light post, I was stopped under. I had the option to right away perceive the person in the beanie and hoodie from prior. I opened the vehicle entryway and bounced inside, pummeling. It shut behind me. I threw my give-over on that small lock handle on the entryway handle a brief instant before the man attempted to open the entryway. As I began the vehicle, he started to kick at my entryway and the window. I tossed the handle into a switch, also hurried up the vehicle, shocked, in reverse away from the man, and I was ready to get away from the parking area. Securely, I returned home and tracked down a lot of imprints in my entryway from the man's kicks. In fact, I ought to have called the police or even the rec center and cautioned the young lady of the men. Now that she was separated from everyone else, rather, I childishly hit the sack and told myself I could never go to the rec center late around evening time once more. Enough is enough for today, guys. Bye.